A family of 3 drove into the Oklahoma mountains with $32,000 cash hidden under the driver's seat. Their dog was in the back. Their phones were in the truck. Their wallets, their IDs, their GPS, all of it still inside. The dog came back alive. The family came back as bones. 4 years later, 3 miles away, and to this day, nobody knows why. Bobby Dale Jamison was 44 years old. His wife, Sherilyn, was 40. Their daughter, Madison, had just turned 6. They lived in a lakeside home in Eufaula, a small town in eastern Oklahoma, population just under 3,000 people. From the outside, the Jamisons looked like a quiet, ordinary family trying to hold things together. Bobby had been in a car accident in 2003 and suffered from chronic back pain ever since. Sherilyn had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder after her sister died suddenly from a bee sting in 2007. That loss had devastated her. Both Bobby and Sherilyn were on disability. They were not working. They were living above their means with no steady income to support it. But in October 2009, they were making plans for a fresh start. They had found a 40-acre plot of land near Red Oak in the Sans Bois Mountains, about an hour from Eufaula. The plan was to move a large storage container they already owned out to the property and live in it, simpler, quieter, away from everything pressing down on them. On the morning of October 8th, 2009, Bobby, Sherilyn, and 6-year-old Madison loaded up their pickup truck and drove toward those mountains. They never came home. Before we get into what happened out there, you need to understand what had been happening to this family in the months before that drive, because the picture that emerges is not a normal family going to look at property. It is a family that was unraveling quietly and completely in ways that nobody around them fully understood. Bobby had filed a lawsuit against his own father, Bob Dean Jamison, claiming the man had threatened to kill the entire family and had deliberately struck Bobby with his vehicle. He described his father in court documents as a very dangerous man involved in gangs and methamphetamine. He had taken out a protective order. The two men were in open conflict. And then there was what was happening inside their house. Bobby and Sherilyn had gone to their local pastor, Gary Brandon, separately on multiple occasions to say they believed their home had been invaded by dark spirits. Bobby told the pastor he had counted 2 to 4 ghosts living on the roof. He asked if the pastor knew anywhere he could purchase special bullets to shoot them. Sherilyn believed that their daughter's imaginary friend, a little girl named Emily, was not imaginary at all. She believed Emily was an evil entity that had attached itself to Madison. Sherilyn spray painted a message on the side of the storage container the family planned to live in. The message read, "Witches do not like it when their cats are killed." She believed someone had been deliberately poisoning their cats in the weeks before the disappearance. Bobby had also been reading from a satanic Bible, something he confessed to the pastor, though he said it had started as curiosity. This was not a family planning a casual trip. This was a family that believed something dark was hunting them. Calm security cameras outside their Eufaula home captured footage on the morning of October 8th. Bobby and Sherilyn made multiple trips between the house and the truck, loading their belongings. But it was not what they were doing that caught every investigator off guard. It was the way they were moving. Both of them walked with a slow, blank, disconnected gait, not rushed, not emotional, empty, like two people operating at a frequency removed from the world around them. Investigators and family members who watched that footage independently described it the same way every time. They looked like zombies. They did not look present. What had caused that? Medication, fear, something given to them without their knowledge? Nobody has been able to answer that question. That footage is the last confirmed sighting of Bobby and Sherilyn Jamison alive. On October 16th, 8 days after the family left Eufaula, hunters found the Jamison pickup truck abandoned on a remote site south of Kinta in Latimer County. When investigators opened it, what they found inside made no sense. Bobby's wallet, Sherilyn's purse, both cell phones, their IDs, the GPS, all their clothing and shoes, and underneath the driver's seat in a bank envelope, $32,000 in cash, $32,000 hidden under the seat of a truck belonging to 2 people on a government disability with no known source for that kind of money. And in the back seat, still alive but severely malnourished, their small black and white dog, The family had been gone for over a week. They had left their dog, their money, their phones, their identification, everything they needed to go anywhere. The doors were locked, no blood, no signs of a struggle, as it looked like the Jamisons had stepped out for a short walk and simply never came back. A massive search was launched. Law enforcement and volunteers combed through miles of dense Oklahoma forest around the abandoned truck for days. They found nothing. No footprints that led anywhere useful. No signs of a camp. No signs of violence. No signs of the Jamison family at all. The case went cold. Theories began. Bobby's father, described in court filings as violent and dangerous, had a solid alibi. A white supremacist handyman named Kenneth Bellows, who had been living with the family before the disappearance and was violently expelled after Sherilyn discovered his views about her Native American heritage, also had a solid alibi. Drug dealers, a cult, a murder-suicide, the cash being payment for something that went catastrophically wrong. Investigators could eliminate nothing. They could prove nothing. Then, in November 2013, more than 4 years after the family drove into those mountains, 2 hunters in a remote area of Latimer County found skeletal remains. 2 adults, 1 small child, less than 3 miles from where the truck had been found 4 years earlier. 3 miles. While search parties had walked those same mountains and found nothing, the Jamison family had been there the entire time. On July 3rd, 2014, the Oklahoma Medical Examiner formally confirmed the remains belonged to Bobby, Sherilyn, and 6-year-old Madison Jamison, and then came the detail that made an already devastating case impossible to resolve. No cause of death could be determined. The bodies were too decomposed, too skeletonized by 4 years in the Oklahoma wilderness. The official ruling was inconclusive. A hole in Bobby's skull was consistent with a gunshot wound, but could not be confirmed. No injuries were found on Sherilyn or Madison. No definitive evidence of violence. No definitive evidence of anything at all. The mountains had kept their secret with complete and total success. Here is what we know and why this case will not close. The $32,000 was never touched. If this was a robbery or a drug deal gone wrong, that cash would have been taken. It was not. Sherilyn's loaded handgun was never recovered. A briefcase that surveillance footage showed Sherilyn placing in the truck that morning was never found. No one knows what was in it. A photograph found on Bobby's phone showed Madison alone in the mountains, wearing a red hooded jacket, the same jacket that was not among the clothing left in the truck, suggesting the photo was taken after the family had already walked away from the vehicle. Analysts who studied that image said Madison appeared uncomfortable, and with Madison's remains, not with either of her parents, investigators found a single dried flower placed there by someone or by no one. Nobody can say. An 11-page letter from Sherilyn to Bobby, described by investigators as a rage-filled hate letter, led police to seriously consider that Bobby had driven his family into those mountains, killed his wife and daughter, and taken his own life. But the inconclusive autopsy made that impossible to prove or to dismiss. What is left when every theory falls short is a family. Bobby, who wanted 40 acres and a fresh start, and filed lawsuits against his own father, trying to protect the people he loved. Sherilyn, who painted warnings on a storage container and believed something dark had gotten inside her home and would not leave her daughter alone. And Madison, 6 years old, an imaginary friend named Emily. A red jacket in a photograph taken somewhere in those mountains. A dried flower that no one alive can explain. No one has ever been arrested for the deaths of the Jamison family. The case is officially open. The $32,000, the missing gun, the missing briefcase, the zombie walk caught on security camera, the dried flower, the hole in Bobby's skull, the inconclusive autopsy, all of it sits in a case file in Oklahoma with no answer attached. A family drove into the mountains. The dog came home. The money stayed in the truck. And the mountains have not given up the rest. If you have any information about what happened to the Jamison family, contact the Latimer County Sheriff's Department in Oklahoma. If this story stayed with you, subscribe. We cover the cases that still have no answer. New episode every week.